last year, we saw an emergent belief among conservatives, especially Charlie Kirk, that America is not an idea. Now, Charlie Kirk and a lot of people used to preach that America is an idea. But Charlie Kirk rejected last year the idea that America is an idea in favor of a more nativist stance, where he said being an American isn't an idea in your head, it's in your blood and soil. You just can't will yourself to become an American, because that means anyone can be an American and will want to move here. So America isn't an idea. It's got to be in your blood. In order to be an American, you also just can't be born on the soil. This is the emergent belief among young Republicans, and Charlie Kirk was beginning to talk this way. He was saying you can't just be born on American soil. Your blood must be rooted in the soil. Your blood must be firmly planted in the American soil for generations. That's what makes you an American. So Charlie Kirk and young Republicans believe that calling America an idea they believe now it's something Obama or Joe Biden would say. This is what young Republicans are coming to believe, that it's wrong to suggest all it takes to be an American citizen is a belief in American values. You pass the test, the citizenship test, and poof, you're one of us. Well, it's a long way to go to justify racism. And it's a not so convoluted justification for nationalism. How do you define a country? Is it geographic borders? Well, more and more young Republicans believe you define a nation by geographic borders as well as religion, ancestry, ethnicity, and race, whatever race means. My listeners know race is just a construct to justify slavery. Now, historically, religion, ancestry, ethnicity was often how people hived off into tribes so they could start killing people from different tribes. It's human nature, tribalism. And the liberals throughout the 20th century fought tribalism. They celebrated pluralism, but that created a problem with white men. Liberalism, especially on college campuses and in politics, democratic politics, it messed with American people, white Americans, men. It said tribalism is wrong because we're all Americans, but we need to celebrate our differences and recognize our identities. So you can't be a tribe, you can't be proud of how you were born unless you were born Black, gay, unless you were born an oppressed group, you're not allowed to have pride in your identity. And that is why Trump is president. And it's what is getting the Democratic Party so twisted that it can't find its way out of this identity trap, can't connect with working class voters, can't connect with people living at or below the poverty line, because instead of pushing Medicare for all, raising the minimum wage, free tuition at all public universities, taxing billionaires to improve our infrastructure, Democrats, because there's so many beneficiaries of our horrible tax system, so many billionaires and millionaires running the Democratic Party, they have morphed into the party of inclusion. Tribalism bad, but at the same time promoting identity. So it's just a walking paradox of garbage. The Democratic Party is a walking paradox of garbage, and it's really easy to poke holes in the candidates because when billionaires run a party, their candidates are all full of shit, except for Bernie, except for AOC, except for if you're not talking about putting the health insurance companies out of business, if you're not talking about putting oil companies out of business, you're full of shit. And that's what the Democratic Party needs to be talking about. Otherwise, you're going to get all tangled up in the identity trap, which is what's happening now. And all that does is empower Republicans because it makes white working class voters angry. Yes, there is structural racism, misogyny, and homophobia. Discrimination is part of America's genetic code, and we need to address that head on. And Democrats do. The party does. But they're not addressing the housing crisis. Nobody can afford rent. Nobody can afford to buy a place to live. Nobody can afford good health care or a college education. So if you're not talking about getting rid of the health insurance companies and the oil companies, if you're not talking about free tuition at all public universities, you're full of shit. If you're not talking about abolishing ICE, the mayor of Minneapolis, who just got reelected, when he said, get the F out, ICE needs to get the F out of Minneapolis. Ooh. And the minute I heard, and then he says, this is bull. And I thought, if you're cursing, you don't have any plans. This guy, Frey, was asked, should we abolish ICE? He said, no. That's why he curses. That's why he has to resort to spectacle, because he has no ideas. If you're a Democratic mayor of Minneapolis and you are not calling for the abolition of ICE, you're full of crap. And so you have to use the F word, because that's all you can offer is spectacle. That's why I don't curse on this show. I have ideas. Anyway, nobody can afford rent. Nobody can. I cannot believe the price of food. I can't believe what it costs. You can't buy a car. And Trump is smart. He pays lip service to our economic immiseration, but he knows what every authoritarian has known for centuries. He knows that hatred for the other will trump, if you will. Hatred for the other trumps hatred for the other trumps voting in your own best interest. Read What's the Matter with Kansas. Millions and millions of Americans will vote to deny themselves free health care, free education, clean air and water, if it also means denying people of color the very same thing. If you can convince white Americans that Medicare for all means black people or Hispanic people will be getting free health care, millions and millions of Americans, white Americans, will vote against it. That's how powerful tribalism and racism is, always has been, and Trump knows that. In his final months, Charlie Kirk, as I said, rejected the idea of America being an idea. He said it has to be more than an idea. He said it's a shared lineage, a shared culture, shared values. Being an American means being someone who can trace their ancestry to the American soil. And the rest, we're just visitors, with or without citizenship. You can't just come here, pass the test, and say, I'm an American. We're more than an idea. We're a tribe, an ethnicity, a religion, and a race, whatever race means. Now, trust me on this. The midterms are in full bloom. By the time October rolls around, Trump, who understands the appetites of Republican voters more than anybody else, he will see to it that this election will be about tribalism, ethnicity, race, and religion, healthcare, climate change, inflation, unemployment, the economy. You'll watch the news and you will hear how the Republicans are polling horribly on the things that matter. But Trump is banking on fear, hatred, fear of the other, hatred for the other, and contempt for the other. That's more important for Republicans than education, health care, affordable housing. He claims to be against identity politics, but he got elected as an identitarian. He's going to convince a lot of white voters that they are under attack, not by United Healthcare, not by the billionaires who refuse to pay taxes or they won't pay taxes or a livable wage. You're not under attack by the billionaires who are jacking up profits by jacking up prices. He will convince millions and millions of white Republicans you're under attack because people of color are taking your job, gay people are converting your child, transgender athletes are exposing themselves in your daughter's locker room, and millions and millions and millions of white Americans will forget that they can't afford health insurance and get so worked up they'll vote for their Republican congressperson or senator. And as I keep saying, the problem Democrats have is they won't go where they need to be. When Trump says transgender athletes, Schumer has to say Medicare for all. When J.D. Vance says Haitian immigrants are stealing our pets and turning them into food, Hakeem Jeffries has to say raise the minimum wage to $20 an hour, free tuition at all public universities. Otherwise, politically speaking, you can't bank on the voters turning on Trump and the Republican Party, because they do turn on Trump. They do turn on the Republican Party until they're faced with the alternative. And then they come home to the Republican Party. Even though they hate Trump, even though they hate Mike Johnson, they're not so fond of the Democrats. Polling says otherwise. There is hopeful polling. So, all right.